We don't usually have these types of meetings on a Monday, especially late in the month. So thank you all for coming and for the accommodations, council and your team for making here for us. So we appreciate it. Okay? Thank you. Okay, this is a regular meeting of the Allendale Land Use Board at which formal action will be taken on the items listed on the agenda and on any other matters which may properly come before the Land Use Board. The requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied through posting on the public bulletin board and in the municipal building and the borough website and by publication in the record on December 29th, 2023, with copies being sent to the Ridgewood News. Certain agenda items will be open to the public for comment and/or testimony. The board will advise the public when such matters are open for their comment or testimony. Before we start, can we all stand up, please, and salute the flag? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Linda, may I have a roll call, please?
Vice Chairwoman Bergen.
Here.
Board Member Warzala.
Here.
Board Member Petrino.
Here.
Board Member Gugliaro.
Present.
Board Member Dallo.
Here.
Chairman Sirico.
Here.
Alternate Butler.
Here.
Alternate Conti.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're just going to cover a couple quick things, and then we're just going to get into the rest of it. Okay. The first thing that we're going to do is approval of minutes from our August 21st regular land use meeting. I reviewed, Linda, I know you made some mods, so has everybody else had the opportunity to review and provide comments? Okay. Can I have, please, a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion to accept.
Thank you. Second? I'll second. Thank you.
Vice Chairwoman Bergen.
Yes.
Board Member Warzala.
Yes.
Board Member Petrino.
Yes.
Board Member Dallo.
Yes.
Chairman Sirico.
Yes.
Alternate Conti.
Yes. Okay. All right, and we'll get into, we have a resolution from, whatever this was, a couple meetings ago. It is application file 2024-10, resolution 24-17. The applicant is Craig Foster, 146 Park Avenue in Allendale, block 1703, lot 11, and the application was for installing a storage shed in the backyard pursuant to section 270-14, parentheses B2. We need to touch on it.
If it's in order, we can approve it for execution memorialization. The only thing we really added into this one that was a topic of the discussion at the meeting was a condition limiting what could and couldn't be located between the approved accessory structure and the rear street, the rear of the property. The applicant was amenable to that during the course of the public hearing. We've got it codified in the resolution draft, but it's otherwise in order. If you think so, we can adopt it, we can make changes, but I think otherwise it's complete.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody, any discussion on the board? Okay, seeing none. Can I have a motion to accept resolution LUB 24-17?
Make a motion.
Thank you, sir. And can I have a second?
I'll second.
You were recused from this,
And then
Melissa.
Oh,
I'll
oh, that's
Oh,
right.
you're
Sorry.
recused.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Sorry.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay.
Board Member Warzala.
Yes.
Board Member Petrino.
Yes.
Board Member Dallo.
Yes.
Chairman Sirico.
Yes.
Alternate Conti.
Yes.
So the next on our agenda is the public hearing. Next on our agenda is public hearing, application file 2024-4. The applicant is Allendale Rehabilitation and Healthcare, 85 Harrington Road in Allendale, block 601, lot 7. The application is to construct an 8,541 square foot addition to a non-conforming assisted living and skilled nursing home. This has been continued from the meeting of April 17th, 2024 and August 21st, 2024. All notices have been sent. Everything is in order. And council, thank you for coming. Thank you for accommodating us on a Monday night, and et cetera, et cetera. Yes, sir. You probably can take that for now. Okay, and use that one. Great. All right. Council, I am going to turn to you because I want to make sure that we have everything, because it's been some time. It's been some time, councils, since you've been before us. So I'm going to make sure everything is in order from both of you, please, and then perhaps we'll get a recap.
So, very good. So, a few things, for the applicant and for the members of the public. This hearing was renoticed. The applicant was asked to renotice. It was a special hearing, so it would have to be renoticed because it wasn't announced after the prior carry. That's why everybody in the public would have received an updated certified mailing, and it was published as well, and the affidavit is in order, as the chairman indicated. Council, since there's been a decent stint in between the first hearing and this one, maybe a summary of where we went during the first hearing, who we heard from for the benefit of the board and the members of the public before we go into our new witness deck. I know you've got to get through traffic and planning tonight. I don't know if you intend to recall on engineering, architectural, or operations. I think we only marked one exhibit at the first public hearing, so we'd be up to A2 if and when you do mark an exhibit at this meeting tonight. We've got a full complement of the board here, ready to vote. You've got D relief, and I know you were hoping for 7 members. You have 7 eligible members here. We have certifications that were signed by members that were not at the first public hearing, that they listened to the audio, reviewed the first proceeding, and they are eligible to vote this evening. So you will have 7 eligible members to vote tonight, council, should you get to a natural conclusion point and the board deliberates and vote this evening. But perhaps we can start just a summary, a recap. It could be brief, and then we could start getting into testimony. I know your goal is to hopefully conclude tonight. We'll see if we can get to that point.
I will be brief. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for accommodating us at a special meeting. It's greatly appreciated. This is an application for amended final site plan approval, a D2 variance for expansion of a non-conforming use, a D4 variance for floor area ratio deviation, C variances, and design waivers. The crux of the application is to construct an 8,541 square foot addition to an existing 111,368 square foot assisted living facility that also does skilled nursing, split in half. We heard testimony from the architect to that regard, who presented an exhibit that showed how the building is divided between the two, how they have 2 separate entrances, 2 separate staff for the most part, essentially 2 separate parking areas, and two separate ambulance entrances. We were here on April 17th, 2024, as was indicated. We were also here in August, but no testimony was taken. Our first witness back in April was Alan Esner. He's the Vice President of Operations for Marquee Health Consulting. And he, which oversees the management of the facility. Also testifying that night was Ryan McDermott, the project architect, and Teal Jeffress, the project engineer. It's my intention tonight to recall Mr. Jeffress to discuss some changes to the site plan, as well as to finish up his testimony, including a review of your engineering review memo, which we did not get to, and to respond to other issues that were raised during the testimony. Following that, I'm going to call Tom Kilcourse, who's the Executive Vice President of Plant Operations for Marquee Health Consulting, who is here in Mr. Esner's stead. Mr. Esner's not available tonight. Mr. Kilcourse, you will learn, oversees the facility, this particular facility, and has for some time and is very familiar with it just as much as Mr. Esner. And we're going to go through some of the issues that were raised during Mr. Esner's testimony, how they've been handled by the facility. Following that, we're going to call Scott Cannell, who is the project traffic expert. And following that, finally, Paul Greigel, who's the project planner. If anybody has any questions, I'll take questions now. Otherwise, I'm going to recall Mr. Jeffers, who obviously will be available. Questions related to all his testimony, not just the testimony that he's going to give tonight.
Any questions from the board? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Jeffers, is he still under oath, sir?
Mr. Jeffers, you are still under oath. Your license remains current and in good standing in the state of New Jersey, I assume?
Yes, it does.
Very good. You may proceed.
Mr. Jeffers, if you recall, some issues came up, particularly with respect to the location of the dumpster in the northwest corner of the property. And you went back and revisited that issue and made some changes to the site to accommodate some concerns with respect to that. Did you not?
We did, yes.
All right. Would you please explain what those were? And I believe you have a handout that will illustrate what you did.
We have some reduced size, and we also have some full-size copies.
Are these different than what was filed, counsel, or these are
Is
just?
there something that was circulated digitally
Right.
to the board before the August meeting?
In an abundance of caution, let's mark it since it was only submitted digitally. So this will be your exhibit A2. If you want to identify it for the record, please.
Yeah, the entire set. How many sheets are there? This one. 4 sheets, I believe. We have extras.
We may, yep, we're all good down there? Good. Yep.
I have one. I gave you guys.
Before you begin to describe the changes, I just would like to, for you to, if you could, summarize discussions that you might have had with the municipal fire official with respect to these plans and were they reviewed by the fire official and what comments you had or feedback you had with respect to the changes.
In response to the board's comments at the April meeting, and we revised the drawings to address some of these concerns, which I'll talk about here in just a moment. But with these revised drawings, we did submit them to Chief David Baez, if I'm saying that correctly, the Allendale Fire Chief. And I requested information from him with regard to the largest fire truck that they would utilize here. He forwarded me information on their 100-foot aerial ladder truck, which he indicated they would utilize in response to this facility. We then utilized the truck turning information for that particular fire truck and routed and demonstrated that there would be ample room to maneuver through this site. Refer to sheet 2.2. And 2.2A. In this particular view on 2.2, it shows the fire truck coming into the employee parking area in the southern portion of the site. To be able to access the building and then to exit, they would back into the loading area or into the area by the proposed trash enclosure and then exit back out. On sheet 2.2A, it shows the maneuvering of that truck coming in from Route 17 down along the eastern portion of the site and then through the southern portion of the site itself. Again, showing that there's ample room for turning and access by that truck. And then referring to sheet 2.1, it shows the maneuvering of that fire truck through the parking area in the northwestern corner of the site. The fire truck would be able to access and maneuver through that parking lot and then exit back out along the existing driveway. Chief Baez had responded to us in an email on August 13th, indicating that he, quote, reviewed all the attached and I feel that everything looks adequate for returning radius. If you have any other questions or information about our apparatus, please feel free to contact me. We can provide a copy of that email. But he did have a chance to look at it and felt that that was sufficient for access for his fire trucks. So that was one thing that the board had asked us to do. And then in response to some of the other comments,
Just mark that if we could.
Okay,
as
can we mark-
agree.
Sorry for interrupting you. Sorry.
Okay.
A3 is going to be your letter from the fire chief in an
From
email
the
format.
fire chief responding to his, to Mr. Jefferson's response to the fire to be providing the plans that are before you tonight.
Thank you. And thank you for doing that. That was something I was concerned with. Thank you.
Prior to substantive changes that were reviewed by the fire. By the fire, or did you, substantive changes that ultimately led to the fire.
at the last meeting, there was, as the board may recall, the trash enclosure that exists here in the southern portion of the site adjacent to the addition was initially proposed to be relocated to the northwestern corner of the parking lot. There were some concerns that were expressed with regard to that location and the proximity to residents to the north of the site. We were asked to look at some potential alternatives to relocate that. We worked with a team, we looked at the various aspects, and we ultimately decided that in lieu of relocating it to the north, we can, and we're proposing to relocate it easterly of its existing location, keeping it in the southern central portion of the site, and locating it here adjacent to the addition, again off the southeastern corner of the proposed addition. This trash enclosure will be slightly to the east of its current location and maintain access to that trash enclosure through the employee parking lot. Trash truck would enter into the site around the eastern side and southern side of the site, pull into the drive aisle, and then back into the trash enclosure located here, and then turn and exit easterly through the site itself. That location is in very close proximity to the proposed addition and its existing location here, which is displaced by the addition. When we relocated the trash back to this location, we infilled the area in the northwestern corner of the parking, and we modified and expanded parking in front of the addition to maintain the same number of parking spaces. So even with this shifting around, we're still maintaining the existing and proposed 170 parking spaces at the site. In addition, we further scrutinized size of that trash enclosure. It was initially proposed to be 20 by 30. We found that we're able to reduce that a little bit, go down to a 20 by 20 enclosure. That will be a masonry enclosure, like we had proposed before, 6 foot high, with self-closing gates. I know there was a question by the board engineer to make sure that there'd be self-closing gates and latches, and that's something that would be specified as part of that trash enclosure detail. Another comment that had come up at the last meeting pertained to lighting, specifically the parking lot in the northwestern corner for the skilled nursing. After the meeting in April, the architect and I went out to the site. We spent some time at the site, even though it was late, to observe the conditions that were expressed. We found that there are 3 floodlights, one in the tree and I think 2 on a pole, or 2 in a tree, 1 on a pole, in the parking lot, shining across the parking lot, and then realistically across the property line. And that appeared to be the source of a lot of the glare that neighbors had complained about and brought to our attention. We also noticed that at the guard shack, which is located here in the northwestern portion of the site, that the light there was not operating correctly, it was turning on and off sporadically, which the current source of the flashing light. Those floodlights were providing horizontal glare. We recognize that. Part of the lighting design, they are proposed to be removed. We are looking to remove those lights and put a full cutoff down light to control the glare, and to control the lighting levels here. So the glare that's caused by those floodlights will be removed, under the proposed conditions. The light on the guard shack has been desactivated. I think the bulbs have been removed from that, and either that light will be completely removed or replaced with a small, wall light for localized lighting at the door to that guard shack, to eliminate the current, flashing condition that's existing, or that was existing. And then lastly, there is a sign located in the island, the existing island right here that says, and I think it says Allendale, Rehab and Healthcare. That existing sign is proposed to be relocated into the new island, or the reduced island, but maintained and directed towards the drive aisle. So there are three conditions that we noticed up in this area following the last meeting, and will be addressed with the new lighting design and the new plans.
And that light is front lit, correct?
I'm sorry.
That light was, I'm sorry, the sign is front lit,
The sign is internally,
just internally.
it's
Okay.
internally.
So it's a backlit sign. Okay, it's an internally lit sign.
It's an
Okay.
internally lit sign, and that will just simply be relocated further into the site, into the reduced island. It's currently located right here adjacent to this parking space. It's gonna be shifted back into the pavement, further away from that guard shack. We spoke a moment ago about the fire chief and the fire chief's review. And then lastly, there was a comment with regard to this parking lot here, the south central portion of the site. This is the employee parking lot area. There is no public access doors off of this area, so this is utilized by employees only for parking. That's also where we are looking for some design waivers with regard to existing driveway widths and parking stall sizes and so forth. There was a comment or a question as to whether it was appropriate to maybe put a sign here to say employee parking only. And after review and discussion, if the board feels that that's appropriate, we'd be willing to put in a sign that would notify anybody driving through here that this is parking for employees only. But from a practical perspective, there's no public access doors in here. There'll only be keyed or controlled access. Public access would be either to the assisted living facility here on the eastern side or to the skilled nursing here on the western side. But again, if the board feels it appropriate, we'd be glad to add a sign there that just specifies it. And then lastly, there was a comment about potential need for a directory sign to direct cars or visitors coming into the site. When we went to the site, we noticed there is a small directory sign on this corner currently. When it says, I believe it says the atrium to the left and nursing to the right. We can revisit that with the applicant to see if that needs to be enhanced at all, but there is a directory sign that's currently there. And that was a question that came up in the last.
And that's just a placard sign. It's just a.
That is just
a
a
sign.
That's correct. It's just a small placard sign.
Okay.
And that summarizes the changes that we're proposing in response to those comments. Then if the board feels we would like to go through the board engineer review comments.
Would you want to do that before questions or right?
Go ahead.
I mean, I would like to maybe hear some of the other testimony and then can we go through that towards the end? If there's anything open, I'll point it out. Maybe some of the stuff will be addressed. We won't have to.
However you want to handle that's okay with me.
We're okay with that.
I have no further
There's
questions.
no further, okay. Board members? I We currently right now, I don't know, we have ordinances about back. Okay, we have ordinances. And most of our signs are front. Okay, there are some grandfathered signs. I am going to assume. Look at you, Michael, I don't even know if you would know, that this might be a grandfathered sign. Oh.
I mean, this is
But
an
if it's moved-
opportunity for the board to revisit it, given the fact that the sign is gonna be.
It's gonna be
relocated.
removed, okay? So generally, when these things occur, we prefer that the signs, or we request that the signs become frontlit. In other words,
ground lighting.
ground lighting up, thank you, ground lighting up. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to have that in our little stipulation, and thank you very much for agreeing. Okay. Something else, again,
That's your question.
We would have to bring you up
Yeah,
and
we'll
swear you in and
we'll
identify
bring
you, so
okay.
it's up to your attorney.
Yeah.
Who's next? So.
I'm sorry. Again, this might not be the appropriate time. It just raised some things. I just took some quick dashes and notes here. You know, you made a comment that the light by the guard shack was blinking on and off, whatever was going on. I know that or at least I think we can't legislate this kind of stuff, but what we would like is that perhaps maybe a better maintenance schedule of these types of things, so that this doesn't occur. I might be in the wrong place, counsel.
He's
Okay.
Talk to.
Okay, I might be in the right place.
Next man's the right place.
Fair enough.
And just for clarification, from my observation, the strobe or the on and off looked to be either the result of a faulty bulb or not screwed in all the way. It was not a strobe style light.
No, I
Just for
no, just
clarification.
blinking on and off of something, a mesh connection or something. No, I didn't. I'm sorry, I did not take it as a strobe light.
I
No,
just wanted
that's
to
not
make
it.
sure-
Fair enough, sir. Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you. I would like to see. Forgive me, I just wrote a note here, but I believe that we said something about an employee parking sign. I definitely would like to, I think that would help. Okay. Board members I always like to do things with the rest of the board making their comments, so. But that's my little piece right now. Okay, so please, everybody.
I do have one question. What is the width of speaking of the aerial truck positioning and getting into the parking lot? What is the width from end of parking spot to the parking spot adjacent?
In the parking spot, in the parking spot area.
Adjacent to it. So within the
At
park,
what location?
anywhere where you have a parking spot here and a parking spot behind it.
Okay, in the new parking stalls here in the northwestern corner, that drive aisle width is 25 feet
Okay, it's 25 feet from the back.
between the stalls.
From the end of the stripe to the beginning of the next stripe.
That's
I,
correct.
is that what you're asking?
Yes.
And that's on that particular area, but what about,
When you get into the employee parking lot, that ranges from existing 21.1 plus or minus 23.5 plus or minus. And then when you get over to the eastern side, that drive aisle ranges from 24 feet, 25 feet to approximately 32. So there are variable widths of the existing drive aisles where we're making the modifications here. We're 25, which is the minimum required. In these areas where it's existing, we do have some non-conformancies to this location. But for that, the area of the non-conformancy is predominantly right here in the employee parking area.
Okay. Because the reason I'm asking is I'm not worried about, I am worried about it pulling in, but I'm also worrying about once it's in position, it being set up.
True.
Because whether you know or not, there's outriggers on the sides of the truck that do get deployed. And I want to make sure that it fits in there appropriately.
No, that I understand. I know when Chief Baez looked at it, he didn't have any comment with respect to that, but I do understand what you're saying in terms of setup location. There are opportunities in some of these, like the turn area here, loading area here, in this base area here, where they would be more than the substantial room for the operators to come down. In and amongst the actual cars, it might not have that on.
How about the security gate itself? What is your understanding of when that's supposed to be down and not down? And I'll just tell you the whole story because I drove by it today and the gate was wide open in the middle of the day. And I'm not sure that was our understanding of how it was supposed to operate.
And there, Mr. Kilcourse can discuss that when he gets up, because
Great.
there's a condition that occurred, because we noted that as well today, that it was up. Normally, that it's supposed to be closed and utilized under emergency situations.
Yeah, the sign was there, but the gate was wide open, so.
Mr. Kilcourse could give a little bit of testimony.
Great.
Any other questions from the board of this witness? Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. Regarding the trash enclosure area, will you have a compactor as part of that?
There's an existing factor in this area now that's not in an enclosure. That would be moved into that enclosure.
Okay. Is there a time of day which that operates, or is that just as needed type of thing? The actual mechanism of the compactors?
I think that's something that this report.
Yeah.
Described.
Okay.
You can, but Ed, would you recommend?
I'd recommend it
Controlled.
during business hours, that they don't do it in the middle of the night, obviously with neighbors and in close proximity to the property line.
Council, would your client be amenable to that kind of condition?
Yeah, I'll talk to Mr. Kilcourse. I don't know what the schedule is. I mean,
It
you know,
can be
obviously,
scheduled.
probably
I'm seeing
after meals probably is the last time of the day that they probably do it after meals, but I don't know. We'll find out.
Food for thought. And then the proposed lighting changes that you're adding, will the warmth of the fixtures, is that going to be provided? I'm not sure if you've addressed that already or not. Sorry if I wasn't at earlier testimony on this application.
Not a problem. Yes, they are. That is a term.
It's going to be in the 3,500 to 4,000 range if they are LED. That's more of a warm color for the board's information instead of a harsh white light.
We are proposing a 3,000 K.
Perfect. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Just to give you, footage width-wise, tower ladder is 9 feet wide, and each outrigger is 4.5 feet wide. Just to put.
So that's 18 feet.
Right.
So we have room for that.
Yep.
Michael.
I mean, I guess a couple general questions, a few things that I may have brought up in my report, maybe a couple of things that we had discussed previously. I do note that you show the flood hazard lines on the plan, based on the FEMA lines. Is that the FEMA elevations plus 1 foot, or is that the actual FEMA lines?
That's the actual field line.
Okay. Because the regulated area is the FEMA elevation plus 1 foot. So we would ask that if this was to be approved, that, the plans be updated and the regulated area shown on the plans, just to make sure that there's no proposed regulated activities in regulated areas. Something else that we talked about briefly, the borough no longer owns the water system. It was sold to Veolia, and there's some water mains on the site that Veolia is going to be looking to get easements on so that they can take ownership and responsibility for. And I have a copy of one of the easement maps that they're proposing. So we would just ask, to coordinate and cooperate with Veolia, because if the easements aren't granted, then the water main will be your client's responsibility to repair and maintain, and I don't think they want that
They've received notice of this as part of the utility list, and I haven't heard from them yet.
Okay, I can provide a printed copy of the map and some
Yeah, that'd be
contact
great.
information.
And I'll,
Yeah. And we're in the process of working through easements throughout the entire municipality. Just maybe we haven't gotten to this site yet, but I just want to make you aware of it. And, there's an opportunity to grant some easements and then relieve your client the responsibility of maintaining those pipes.
Sure, that's a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess the other question I have is now, given the fact that, the dumpster's being relocated or being proposed to be relocated to the other side of the site, is there any additional landscaping or anything buffering that's being proposed? Or is that still going to be based on the original plan, or is there an opportunity to maybe make some enhancements?
But there are some existing trees in that area, and then the way that we looked at it, the board was amenable to that location. We worked with Mike with your office to come up with some landscaping to help to screen that area. So we are amenable to add some landscaping. We didn't show it at this point, but if the board is amenable to that location, that's something we'll be able to do.
And I would suggest to loop Ed into that conversation. He's probably better at the landscaping than I am, but.
Embarrassed.
I did not intentionally exclude you.
No, I didn't take it that way.
And, back to the lighting, we had talked about, and again, you might have said it at the previous meeting, but it was several months ago. Are the lights going to be adjustable? Are they going to be on timers? Turned down maybe after business hours to minimize the amount of lighting that may be on the site?
Right now, we have them on dusk to dawn because of the operations of the site. We can further review that for use of timers. I do know that we do note the equipped with timers, so we can work with you if necessary. If you turn lights on for security purposes, and then turn the other ones off. We can work it out.
Okay. And what we've found in the past, maybe doing an as constructed walkthrough on the site during different times of the year and different times of the night to see if there's some lights that can be knocked down versus other lights that are necessary for
We'd be
operations.
open to, with the door construction, have it like test once the lights are on and operable, but making the adjustments and tweaks if necessary.
I think that's all I have at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Just to go back to the garbage facility again. When we met back in April, we did speak about you guys thinking about moving it to the commercial side, or closer towards Route 17. So it wasn't touching residential, because if you remember last time, some people in the crowd did have some complaints about noise and all that regarding the garbage facility. Is there any thought about moving it?
We actually looked at the possibility of relocating into this area. There were some limitations just based on the geometry of the site. Our limitation in terms of any expansion into this area, given the stream, floodplain. And also there was discussion from an operations perspective in terms of where does that trash come out? And it comes out at the backside. Otherwise, they would basically need to transport that to the main facility out there. So when we looked at it from that perspective, there was really not a prime area or really a good area out there to place them. We did scrutinize probably 6 or 7 different schemes to see what might work out the best. And this ended up being the most appropriate, understanding the concerns about moving it any closer to residential. We were trying, in this case, we actually moved it a little further back from the backyard of the adjacent property rather than it being adjacent to the gentleman's house. And then that also provided ample access.
did you think about moving it to the lower right portion of your map,
In there.
right there?
Here. The problem that we ran into there is we have floodplain in here, we have, stormwater in here, we have some easements, and some suspected wetlands that might be in that area as well. We did look at that area, because all this was the stream down through here, is that stream.
Like, does that prohibit it?
It makes it very difficult to put it in that area. Yeah, there are definitely, mapped environmental constraints on that side of the property.
So I know you have a little bit of a courtyard, which I believe is in here. I'm trying to indicate it
Right
right
here. That's a little courtyard for residents.
for residents. And right now, right where I have my little dot, that's where the garbage bins are being. The compact
And it's currently right here.
that is currently here. Is there any way that it can be put, I guess what I'm trying to get at is there any way that it can be masked off the property line into a slightly different area over here? And and again, I'm trying to just do this to just indicate, I don't have the exact place for you. This way you would have not only the barrier of a building or a structure off the property line, and then also running the compactor noise that would help mask it. I cannot sit here and tell you exactly where I'm thinking. I go to you.
Understood.
Right.
And I understand where your thought
Thank
process
you.
is. When we looked at this area, this parking area here, where the ambulance drop off and pick up the patient here, there was an ample room to have that truck. Pick up truck.
Okay.
In order for him to access this, he has to pull up in here and back in. He's unable to make that turn. So when we looked at it from that scenario, we don't have that option of putting it up here unless we widen this parking lot, reduce this addition to then give ample turning. And as soon as we do that, it kind of defeating the purpose of trying to find it is that we're opening it up here. So that really didn't pose itself as a feasible option, given that might.
And is that also fitting into the amount of parking spaces that are required?
The amount of parking that's required is in excess of what we
It's in excess
currently
of it.
have.
Okay.
Based on the zoning requirements, we are required under proposed conditions to have 232, whereas we currently have 170, and we're proposing to maintain 170. Now, just to remind the board, there's a reduction in the number of beds for lots of parking demand is actually being reduced from the current condition. We have a specific non-conforming condition with regards to parking. But in this case, with this configuration, the same amount of parking.
What is the purpose of that second roundabout that goes kind of in between the buildings? So I know you're proposing like a somewhat of a new roundabout where they can drive around where you said an ambulance would come and drop off. But it looks like there's another roundabout that goes deeper in that's existing. Yeah, what's the purpose of that?
Not yet.
Yeah, not
We'll-
yet.
we'll leave-
Okay.
We'll leave for the next.
I'm just wondering, you know, what that space is, if this is an employee kind of back of house entrance, and if this is dead space, you could have the truck come in, back up straight into that, put the trash in that area, come back out. But, yeah,
And
because if it,
oh, go ahead.
no, again, I was just saying, because if it's a back of house space, it's not like a courtyard for, you know, the clients or whoever live there to go out to. Why not make more use of the space? It seems redundant for a vehicle. But
And the reason why I posed the question about parking spaces is what I'm trying to say is that if if there was a better place for the garbage area that would pull it off the property lines of the residents. Okay. And we had to sacrifice a couple more parking spaces. Or something like that. And again, I do know, I can't give you exact dimensions, et cetera, et cetera. But if we were to relocate that to make this better and pull it off the property lines, especially since you have a compactor going, you know, things like that, that you pull off the line, is there something else that could be done where we almost have, you know, and then we're trading some more spaces?
Well, how far from the property line is it as currently proposed?
Where if you relocated it into that other area that Vice Chair and myself are speaking about, you're located 60, 70 feet off the property line
If we're relocated into this area,
or somewhere.
oh, it would be significantly further than that.
Yeah.
I mean, this building addition is 60, a little over 60 feet from the property.
Maybe we should hear from. So we'll find out how that area is used before we go any further with this discussion. And then we can bring Mr. Jeffers back and see if it's feasible from an engineering. But it may not
Did you hear
be.
the suggestion, council?
I know,
Concern is.
but I don't know
it could
the
be
answer
addressed.
to what that area is used for, and maybe it's used for something that would mean putting garbage area there, limited some way. But I don't know the answer to that, Mr. Kilgore.
We'll wait to hear from that, then we'll talk about hours of the compactor use in any event.
Yeah, he's gonna talk to all that.
Please.
Mr. Jeffries, can you just clarify, is there one compactor just for wet garbage, or is there a compactor for wet and for cardboard? What is,
There's one compactor and then there's one dumpster for cardboard. My understanding is the dumpster is for cardboard, compactor is for
wet garbage? So I'm very familiar with compactors, right? So ultimately, when the compactor is in use, the material that leaches out, basically the liquid that leaches out, how are you proposing to protect any type of drainage structures that are in that area so that the material, the wet, basically the leachate that leaks out of the compactor doesn't go into the stormwater? What's prohibiting that from entering the stormwater?
As of right now, that hasn't been fully designed. That's something that will be designed as part of that enclosure. If we agree on this location, final location, that's something that we can take very important.
Where I'm going with that is that it doesn't quite often smell the way it's supposed to. So when you have a wet garbage situation and it's not contained or maybe maintained as frequently as we would like it to be, that could also be a potential problem in that area. And then just go to Garden State Plaza by J.C. Penney's garbage dumpsters, and you don't want to be in there. Because they're all wet. It's all wet garbage that gets condensed down to limit the amount of frequency that it's picked up. So it's sitting there, it's wet, and it's leaching onto the ground. How is that getting addressed?
The compactor's been there, it's currently in that location, is it not? There's a compactor currently there, correct?
Just next to that location.
You know, council, you're here on a use variance request.
Oh, I know, I'm just
So it is
saying,
a fair
but like,
mitigating
we had a
request.
neighbor there last time and no one complained about the smell coming from there. We had a neighbor from that street and he had concerns, but one of them was not smell coming from the compactor that's already there and much closer to his house than this one.
No, I understand. You understand the
That's all.
mitigating
The
factor,
smell, right? So when the leachate leaches into the stormwater and it potentially goes into a flood hazard area that's ultimately going to go into the stream.
Oh, I understand. There's
So
two issues.
That's a large issue. And then the smell and the quality of life becomes another issue.
I understand that.
That neighbor that didn't complain perhaps sells his house in a few years and we're left with a neighbor that may not really like the situation, right? So we have to look at things a little bit broader.
I mean, it's
right?
me right next to the building that we're building. I don't think that odors are really gonna be, you know, compatible with building a
Understand,
building
you
where
guys
people are gonna
look into
live right
that.
next to it,
Right?
so.
Look into it, look into the design and what happens with that liquid that leaches out of the compactor. Where does it go? How is it getting addressed?
If need be, that's something we'll look at if need be. We have the ability to find sanitary line for the drain for that to contain that. So
Very good
which
idea.
is in that area, so we can address that as part of the one, something.
Thank you.
The board members,
Question, Mike.
please.
So, parking, so at the moment, the site was a previous application that has parking that is non-conforming, existing non-conforming. And can you just recap numbers in terms of parking current and what's gonna be new?
That's three resident employees, 31 non-resident employees, requirement of 3 parking. Currently, there's 170 parking spaces there. After the proposed conditions are constructed, the number of beds will be reduced to 316. 3 resident employees and 120 non-resident. That parking requirement reduces to 232. And again, 170 parking spaces are proposed to be made. So there's reduction in the overall parking requirement from a zoning perspective. The number of parking spaces are proposed to be
Roughly 50 short, roughly.
Mr. Kendall, this evening, the traffic engineer will provide testimony with regard to the adequacy of the existing parking.
Sorry, one other question. You have listed here for the impervious surface analysis. Can you just explain existing versus, sorry, I'm looking at this as tiny. Are you saying that this existing versus proposed is the same? For the total square footage of impervious coverage?
The number on the total column is the same, that's the same site area, that's a total site.
Okay, that's the total site area. So
That's correct.
what's the change in impervious coverage?
The change in impervious coverage, the net difference there is, an add of 3,616 acres.
It's a reduction, is it?
It's an increase. By about 1%, give or take. No engineer, I'm not good with numbers.
Where is that listed? I'm just trying,
In
I see that,
in the building and impervious surface analysis, in each of the tables, it talks about the change in building, the change in impervious, and the change in impervious. The change in impervious is the negative 3,616, which means it's an increase in impervious by 3,000.
I just see the 51% is existing and 52 is proposed.
Right, that is the impervious coverage.
Can I just make a follow-up comment on that? We talked about that a little bit at the first meeting.
Mhm.
And although the scope of the project doesn't meet the threshold of a major stormwater development because it doesn't trigger acre of regulated impervious coverage or an acre of disturbance, we still want stormwater measures to be provided to address the increase in impervious coverage. And I believe at the last meeting, they agreed to revise their stormwater design and provide adequate stormwater management measures to address the increased runoff and the increased coverage.
I mean, one of my questions, I don't think you can answer this, but is just why, I think that's a one-story structure right adjacent to this, and why we're expanding the building and not just building the second floor, because I know half of the structure is 2 stories and then half is 1 story. And I'm just curious why, the reason for the expansion versus going vertical. And again, I know you're not the architect. But I don't know if there's anybody that will be hearing tonight can answer that.
We'll call back Mr. McDermott to answer that.
At the end.
We're a bit of. All right. Now, at this particular point in time, we open up questioning of this witness only on the testimony that you've heard in the previous testimony. Go back there. Right. Okay, so, yes, sir, please, we need your, I'm sorry, pardon me, Walter. Name, address, and everything else that Linda gets it today. Sure, please, sir, thank you.
Jim Briggs, 244 Nottingham Road, Ramsey. It's at the April meeting, just for reference on the plans. Myself and my wife Christine, we live at block 5503, lot 22, so we're in the northwest corner of the property. With the relocation from the original plans of the trash and recycling, I think there's an increase in parking there now. 4 spots.
The area where.
So how many, I think it was 36 spots currently, it's going to 63 in the original plans. How many total spots now?
There are 4 additional.
So 67 in total? Okay. And then I know you mentioned the observation of the floodlights with the side glare that is suggested will be taken care of. The light poles and the additional lighting to satisfy that additional parking, am I right that there's a doubling of light poles and lighting?
Floodlights in the exterior, the shorter light that are out there. And some are off, I think some are not. I just fall. Okay, so there is a double.
So would you be able to speak to whether lighting is increasing in that area?
You say lighting, you mean the number of lights or the intensity of light?
The number of lights, for a start.
I'd have to go back to permanent exactly the number of lights that are in that area.
And my notes from April's meeting was that there was a doubling, and I just.
Now, while Mr. Jefferson looking at that, are you seeking a waiver for any excess foot candles over the lot line as part of your application, or?
I think we're actually seeking waiver for back candles up there.
You're too dim?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Jefferson. you just speak again to the waiver that's needed for lighting plan?
And with regard to the waiver, there was a requirement that minimum foot candle of 0.1 or minimum levels of 0.2 foot candles, whereas we have a couple isolated areas, 0.1 foot candles. And then a uniformity ratio of 4:1 required, whereas the design has 4.5:1 and 17:1. Lights around the parking lot, we are proposing them and have proposed them with outside shields, lighting back glare, which property lights. We're not adding or throwing light across the property line.
You'll be throwing them down and into the property.
That's correct. The outside shields will be back. Lights. I think a big problem out here. Lighting here, they're going to be a big part of this.
Can I just ask one more question about the service vehicles? Just in the event of a snowstorm, is there anything with the renovation or the addition that's going to make snow removal more challenging for the salt trucks or for the plows to get in and out? Is there enough room to pick it up and remove it, or is there a place where you're going to be piling it up?
Actually, with regard to the northwestern parking lot, to provide better circulation and better access to people to get that stuff off. Because the way it currently is, it's a dead end. They have to turn it into a dead end parking. The area with the employee parking,
Yes.
it really eliminates a dead end stuff off of the employee parking. So I guess from that perspective, it might enhance it. It does not make it any more challenging. No removal is challenging to begin
Yep.
with, but it actually provides enhancement.
Thank you.
All right, I just want to make sure if anybody else from the public has a question of this witness only. Ma'am?
Your handle with that, sign, both sides of it. My question, listed for you stated that there's ambulance trouble. When you pull into the home, the sign go around for ambulance.
And I believe there might be a strong hold here at the skilled person.
Now we're having two, so we have one.
There's nothing changing.
There's not an ambulance truck up there, signs. So with that, then emergency vehicle going for the gate for transport or drop.
Mr. Philpott can address that question, but I believe in the event of the emergency, that might be an area where they would use.
It is for emergency, but not for transport, right?
That I can speak to.
Okay. And you're gonna knock down the trees there in the middle, down and remove trees. There's, for removing trees in the center island.
Of the parking.
It's in this center island. Yes, that's part of that additional proposal that island would be reduced in some. And then some of the trees in that island. There's one tree that's located here.
Right, the large strips, the blocks in the woods from 17. So you also have on 17, Allendale Prison. When the summer comes, winter comes, all the trees. The heat. It's like, like all the 17. And then are you planting shrubbery for the headlight?
There is a landscaping plan that does show landscaping that's proposed. We went through at the last meeting. Side, patriot shrubs to each of the islands, added shrubs to the islands.
Okay, any further questions from the public, sir?
Name for me right here, so I'm on, what, 20?
Excuse me, can you spell your first and last name and state your address? Sorry?
Right here, or you like that.
Thank you.
He proposed, February, landscape plan. Of
The existing parking spaces here, those parking spaces here, shows have shrubbery around the head of those parking stalls. Shrubs and shade trees in the island, shrubs in there's lines, there are shade trees. On the property. Existing evergreens that exist in this area and other existing trees that exist on the property line, with the exception of right now, the shrubs will range in size generally from 18 to 30 inches. The shade trees, 12 to 13 feet. Evergreen trees, 5 to 6 feet.
And the evergreens are also gonna go on that top portion.
There's one evergreen that's going to be proposed to be removed here on the northern side of the building. That's proposed to be replanted. Then the other evergreens, I believe, here are on the southern side.
So there's no sound mitigation or any that people and littering into the creek that's currently there on the property.
Well, there's existing vegetation along that northern portion of the property here that's going to remain. That's not being.
Okay, so that currently does nothing.
Sir, questions only.
Yeah, just questions.
Questions only.
Just questions.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay. So in terms of additional parking, has there been any thoughts to adding sound mitigation? Because you're adding 75% more parking back in there.
Sorry, I think your facts are wrong. We're not adding 75% more parking anywhere.
Well, you're relocating parking, right?
No, we're not.
Project area one, for 36 spots.
Mr. Briggs, it's one at a time.
Hang
It's
on.
whoever's up here at the moment for recording purposes and just,
Right,
Thank you.
so 36 spots are currently at northern northwest area. And we're proposing additional parking spots to recoup the 170, right? Brings back up to that.
Correct. In this area, there's currently 36 parking spaces. Under the original proposal, that would be 63. Relocating the trash, adding right there to 67, doubling.
So item 5.1. You were talking about relocating employee parking. Currently, along where the back of my property is, the kitchen help currently parks. How is there going to be monitoring of where that is parking? And is there currently monitoring of where's?
I think that's a question for the next week.
Yes. I'm, please hold that for the next,
Okay.
okay, if you don't mind.
Okay.
But if you have a question of this,
No.
okay, hold that question. Thank you.
Any other questions from the public? Okay, bringing it back to the board. Any further questions of this witness? Okay. Okay, counsel.
Mr. Rubin?
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir.
Our next witness is Tom Kilcourse.
Sir,
Sworn in.
we will swear you in. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Would you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Sure, my name is Thomas, last name is Kilcourse, Kilcou.
Mr. Kilcourse, by whom are you employed?
I'm employed by Marquee Health Consulting Services.
Is that the same employer of Mr. Eisner?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Eisner with respect to this particular site?
I do.
I've described your responsibility with respect to the site and the frequency of your business.
So my overall role with the company is I'm responsible for Marquee's, all from a plant operation standpoint, which is housekeeping, maintenance, security, life safety, excuse me. I visit the site once a month, typically, depending on if need be. I may go more. It just depends on the need, but typically once a month.
And with whom there do you interact?
Typically, I'll interact with the administrators as well as the maintenance director, the housekeeping director, etc.
Are you familiar with the operations of the site, the extensive frequency of trash pickup and ambulance services and all those kinds of activities?
I am.
Before we go any further, there was a question asked about this turnaround that exists in the southern portion of the site, whether or not the trash area could be relocated to this area. Can you tell me what goes on in this area that's southern portion of the site? 17's over here.
So 17 is here. So this would be our.
Parking here.
So this is door 23. So this turnaround, as is described, you'll see there's an island in the center there. In that island, there's a fountain along with landscaping that goes around that particular area.
What's it used?
Well, it's used as basically a drop off. It's a turnaround. So if an employee, let's say someone's dropping an employee off to go to work today, so they'll come in, they'll go through drop the employee off at this, which is what we refer to as door 23, and then the employee would enter, and then their ride would exit.
Is door 23 the door that employees enter even though they park here in the parking area?
That is correct.
Is there any reason why a trash area can't be relocated in there?
Well, quite honestly, we're very, very close to the building. If you look at the location of where our rooms are located, the rooms are literally would be right outside this area here.
So there are rooms that
face there, correct.
Windows,
That's correct.
so forth.
Correct.
And so you think this is a better location?
I do.
Near the southern border of the south?
I do. We've looked at this quite extensively as far as movement of the trash compactor, the dumpsters, and really this is the best from our perspective. It's really the best location. Trying to keep into account for our neighbors as well as operationally as well. I have to be cognizant of the fact that my staff who are bringing out trash, whether that be dietary, housekeeping, what have you, the dumpster has to be fairly close to the building. I can't have the dumpster far away from the building and have them walking, extensive periods of time with big trash barrels, etc.
And what door do they use to exit to get to the trash area from the southern portion of the building?
So right now they are exiting through a side entrance. There's a side entrance right here, and they exit out through here.
Right here, it's on the right-hand side of.
Correct.
And which facility uses dumpster? That is currently in the southern portion of the building. Is it the skilled nursing?
It's mostly the skilled nursing uses it, which is on the side of
on the left side.
Right, that's correct.
As you're looking at it.
That's correct.
On
Correct.
Mr. Cope, can I, counsel?
Yeah, please.
Not questioning your questioning. Is there a way that we could kind of that you could point to the map?
Yes.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
can do that.
If you,
Sure.
I carry this little pointer thing here. You can more than welcome to use it if you'd like. But just so that we could so the board can understand exactly. Thank you.
Why don't you show us where door 23
And
is?
other members of the public, I,
Is that okay?
well,
Yes, we can, maybe we could turn that
yeah.
plan sheet a little
Because
more.
the art-
We have members of the public back there gesturing. They want to see what Mr. Hilcourse is referencing for this testimony. So maybe we can. And man, maybe if you can move that way, maybe you can get a better shot that way.
Just so that we can get everybody to understand.
Sure. So this is the turnaround in which you're referring to,
Yes.
correct? Okay, so in here is door 23, okay? This is where these employees here enter through, they enter into that door right there. This circle here.
You could use the easel, Mr.
Yeah, you
Hilcourse.
can
You could
put
put
up
that
an
easel.
easel. You can put an easel so it's just everybody can see.
You think? See, okay, all right.
So for the perspective, everybody understands, up in the upper right-hand corner, that's where the entrance is off of Route 17.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right here.
Okay.
That's correct. So let's say employee's gonna get dropped off, they come in, they go down, through, they go into the turnaround, drop the employee off, they go back up.
And where does the trash come out? Where from the building is trash taken out of?
Right here, side door right here. Well,
And that square, that's just above the new proposed building.
right in here, actually. That's where we're taking it out currently.
Okay.
That's where we're taking it out currently.
So right now, where you're proposing to put the new building is at the lower, right, kind of in the middle of the argument. And where I was thinking was that somehow the compactor building area would be somewhere kind of up from, I guess, in that little courtyard area. Somewhere.
You were thinking.
Right around, yes, sir, right around there. Thank you. That's what I would, and then you would be shielding it. You shield it from the residents on the south side of the property line. And it would be, at least I think it's close to where you're talking about bringing it out, and it's centralized. And I would call it more enclosed, for lack of a better word, within the confines of the building property or the buildings on the property. And still allow the guy to come in there, the dumpster guy.
Well, that's
the
my
trash
concern.
guys.
My concern is the movement of the truck. That's what I'm concerned. So I just want to understand. So I've got this is my courtyard. Is that correct? That's correct. So you're suggesting that I take a piece of that
The other
courtyard?
piece of the courtyard. I was, my earlier questioning was that, we also know you have a deficiency of, even though it is what it is, in parking. I'm willing to, to have a conversation about giving up parking space to allow for something like this to occur.
Literally would have, again, this would have to be.
Designed, and
I understand.
This from a design engineering
And
perspective.
I think at this point, it's safe to say we're not concluding tonight, so it's. I mean,
I'm
you've
trying
got
to-
3 more witnesses, so this is something I think you should carry over and discuss internally between this hearing and the next one. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting here, sir, and trying to balance the applicant, and the residents in the area, especially with something like this. And thank you.
Can I just
I get-
ask him a question?
Yes, sir.
About this, about that location? Are there rooms that surround the outer perimeter of that courthouse?
So I have rooms that are here. This is a courtyard here. There's currently no rooms in this area. So like I said, it's a courtyard.
There will be rooms.
We have to take, literally reconfigure the whole courtyard and figure out what a turning radius. I think that's really my big concern right now is the turning radius. I necessarily don't have a problem taking a piece of that courtyard. It's a really good sized courtyard. I just don't know whether I'm gonna get what I need to be able to put it there. And I understand what you're saying, and I agree with it. I just don't know whether I'm gonna have the radius with the truck. That'll be something that he and I can figure out for our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman. Sir. Ed, John is looking,
You want to go ahead?
Go.
Okay. Something occurred to me as the board's talking about this issue, and I wanted to offer possibly another alternative to be considered. It may not be as effective from distance from neighbors as you're talking about, but it might be as another way of getting at least the compactor a little bit further away. If I can approach the exhibit.
Please.
I was looking at this. You have the parking area here, the double loaded parking lot that occurs in this location. As you were talking about before, is there ability to some parking spaces or something like that? Where the current compactor is shown right now, that's actually parking right now. If you were to convert that to 2 parking spaces and take 2 parking spaces possibly from the end of this employee row of parking on that side, is there enough space at that location where an enclosure can be built, puts it on the opposite side of the drive, but still keeps it close to where the truck turns? As another alternative. I do appreciate what you're trying to do as far as having buildings separate that, but there's also fire code issues, as I understand it, with regard to how close a dumpster can be to this. So I thought that this might be another alternative to explore if the board looks.
Thank you.
That's something that the board would consider.
I would, I mean,
Can I just speak to that? I don't want to testify, but I just want to raise an issue. And that, I believe that we talked about putting it in that corner. And the issue would be, I think there's an issue with respect to the truck movements and how they get in and out and access that. But Teal could speak to that better than I, because I know we spoke about that corner. I just don't remember the outcome of it.
And it's Mr. Jervis' approach. Why don't we continue your direction,
Fine.
Mr. Kilcourse? We can then go into proper cross-examination with your witness, and we could probably resolve this another day. I don't think you need a battlefield decision here tonight on this side. I mean, you've heard the board's concerns from a few members now. Consider your options. I don't mean to be presumptuous, but it's 9 o'clock. We haven't got. We're not getting done tonight, I don't think.
No, I didn't think so.
Even if we stay till 11, I don't think we're there.
Yeah.
But so I think you have time, Mr. Rubin, to consider that with your experts.
All right, then let's deal with some of the other issues that were raised during Mr. Essner's testimony back in April. There was a question about the Google address, the fact that when you put in 85 Harrington Road, it takes you to the cul-de-sac. Can you speak to that?
I can't, when you put that in now, it no longer takes you to that. It'll take you to our address. So that has been corrected with Google Maps. We are trying to also work this out with the post office as well. I know that they're talking about the address. Our official address is that back address, which is causing all the confusion. So Google has taken it off their maps. That's great, but we want to try to work something out with the post office as well in regards to our address. It's going to mean we're going to have to do all of our collateral law, whatever it means, but I think it's best for everybody.
Changing the physical address, you're saying?
Yeah,
With a new street.
Correct.
On the physical.
correct.
so then that,
That's out of our control.
It's out of our control.
It's a third. We do it all the time at our office as well. And you can't guarantee the third-party compliance. You got to deal with first response, USPS.
Right.
You got to deal with the tax office in town, but
100%. I know. I think
it's something you're already. I know it was an issue for board.
Yeah.
It's something you're already pursuing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it's a problem for everyone. It's a problem for the neighbors, and it's a problem for us as well. I mean, I don't want someone to come to our address and then come up to a gate that may be closed, or like one of the residents just showed me a picture of a truck offloading some stuff off in their cul-de-sac. So I want to make this as best as I can for the neighbors and for our company. So that's why I'm here.
so just maybe for the benefit of the audience and for myself, because I'm not really smart enough with this. As you said that you're pursuing, or you've asked about changing the address, it's all, et cetera, et cetera. Out of curiosity, what would the address be?
I'm not working on it, so I wish I could tell you that, but I don't have that information.
I'm just curious if it would be something Route 17.
Well, that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
We're looking for it to be on the Route 17 side.
Okay.
That's what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
But I can't tell you the exact number. I can't tell you.
That is a fair answer, but we're kind of in the same place.
Yes, we are.
All right.
Question. back in April about the number of ambulance arrivals per day. Some talk about like two different ambulance services. One was in transport and one was 9/11.
That's correct, yes.
And tell us about that. When one uses, when is other, about how often they arrive at the site.
Well, for me to say, I can give you numbers, but quite honestly, the numbers vary. It just depends. Transports are done to transport people possibly back and forth to dialysis, things like that. That'll occur for maybe one resident 3 times a week because that's how much they go to it. Our 911, I don't know. I would say on average, there's about between 5 and 6 911s per day that go out. As far as transports go, I couldn't give you an exact number. I would say roughly in the area of anywhere from 5 to 10, somewhere in that area. But again, it depends on the day. It depends on who's going where.
9/11 called you to send 5 per day.
That's correct.
Okay. And then transport, you're not sure, but it's probably
Between 5 and 10, roughly.
There was also some discussions about problems with radio transmissions inside the building. Are you familiar with that?
So that was, I did listen to the testimony from April. I did hear that. I've done that in other buildings before for the fire department. We've done tests, radio tests, and I'm certainly more than willing to do that. That's not a problem.
And I think you stipulated in April, Council, that a radio survey post build out would be conducted.
I'm the one doing it, so.
Right.
Yeah.
On the new and existing.
Yeah.
Correct. That's correct, yes.
I cancel if I may, just for one moment, and apologies for interrupting. Andy, you have discussed this with me.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, he raised it, and I said that I would make sure that this would be taught, and he raised it in April. Is there anything that you, before we get forward here, sorry, gentlemen, is there anything else that you want to?
Yeah, I would like to just go back before the radio comment you had. I want to go back to the ambulatory stuff. That's
Sure, you want to.
Sure.
okay. So
Is that okay? Okay.
the other question that was raised was looking into a 24-hour service there at the facility for ambulance service.
I can't, we don't do that at any of our buildings. I have 85 sites and I don't have an ambulance sitting on site for any one of them. From a cost perspective, it would be too cost prohibitive for us to do that.
Okay. And the only reason it was asked was because if they're going there for a transport or non-emergency call, you're taking away ambulatory service from Borough Mountain.
And they shouldn't be doing that. We should be calling our own ambulance service. And if we are calling 911 for transport, I would like to know about it because we'll take care of it. It's not acceptable. I've had this issue with other buildings and we do address it right away. So
you have contracts with both the transport service and an ambulance.
that's correct. That's correct.
So if you have contracts with them right now.
I can't sit them there. I can't have the ambulance physically sit there.
Right, no, I understand that. But if you have contracts with them there, why don't you per se call them instead of calling
They should be.
Allendale Volunteer?
No, they should be calling before they call Allendale Volunteer. If they're calling, they should not.
I highly doubt that's happening.
Okay, well, then I will address that and it will be taken care of, I promise you.
Going back to your radio service.
Yes.
So you, by fire code, you have to do it in the new building.
Yes.
So can I talk about existing? So are you or are you not aware of the radio communication problem in the existing building?
I have to be honest with you, I've never been told that there was an issue with the fire department's radios.
So as you go into the building, there is an issue with it. So even police have issues with it as well. So that it comes to a life safety standpoint for
100%. That's why, again, no, not a problem. I'm more than happy to do the study in both buildings, both the new and the old. So, thank you.
Okay. We good. Thank you.
Gentlemen, can I ask a question? Are you from the service? Can I do the old building now? Are you okay with that? I mean, I know this is we're part of going for the new building, but I'd like to get that done as sooner rather than later.
I'm supporting the position.
I think that's
Address that.
We'll work that out with
You could certainly do it anytime you like. I would just coordinate it so members of this board know the results and what's being implemented.
I'm going to give you the results.
It's existing. It's not something that will be a condition of
No, I know.
only you getting an approval here. It's something that the borough
No.
wants in any event for life, health, and safety.
No, no.
So,
Maybe done before we come back.
possible.
I'd like to get it done.
Good idea.
Council, if I may ask, are you the contact for that?
I would contact, Chief Dillon regarding it.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll reach out.
Dylan,
Yep.
Thanks, Chief.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
I know.
Thank you. Okay.
Another question is, how frequent and what time of day garbage pickup occur?
So the compactor is picked up on a weekly basis. The cardboard is picked up twice weekly. We have guidelines for the trash company. They are not supposed to be on our property until 8 o'clock in the morning. That's what our guidelines state to them. If we hear of any complaints, if they come in earlier, we then call the owner of the trash calling company and put them on notice. I think we've probably switched 3 different companies since we've owned the building now for some of those exact reasons. Yeah. So,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question regarding the address? So while sitting here, I Googled 85 directions to 85 Harrington Road
Mhm.
through Apple,
Mhm.
and it took me around without going to Harrington. But if you do it through Google Maps, it
Mhm.
takes you through Harrington.
interesting.
My understanding, if you put in the facility in Google Maps, it takes you 17. So I think
But
that's what they're working
But what is the
That's-
difference if you put the facility or put the address in?
on.
That's a Google thing. So we'll have to ask that. Yeah.
But I understand that they understand that issue exists, and that's what they're trying to fix with Google. Is that you put in the address, it takes you to one place, but if you put in the facility's name, it takes you to 17.
But it just needs to be addressed on multi. It's just not just Google.
No, well, it's Google Waze. Google owns Waze. So yes, we will be addressing it.
So you are also the facilities person there?
Not there. No. I oversee all of our key buildings.
Okay, from a safety standpoint,
Yes.
the rear gate on Harrington.
Yep.
Why is that always up?
So I'm glad you asked that question. So there's an issue with the actual pad. So when someone comes through that gate, it's not closing all the way. I just spoke to the maintenance director. I stepped out when I was made aware of this, that it was a problem. Spoke to him. He is contacting our vendor who will be there tomorrow, and I will follow up and hopefully have an answer for the board when we come back next month.
And last time when we spoke in April,
Mhm.
members from the crowd did report that there was garbage and everything around the outside of the facility over top of the wall, and also like equipment like ladders and stuff out there.
That was my next question. That ladder on the south side of the building has been.
It has.
Against the fence.
It has.
That's trash. stuff.
It has, yes.
Are you done? Okay. Board?
Could I answer a question for you?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So you asked about the dumpster smell. So one of the things that we do, and this is all of our facilities, we have a chemical that if there is liquids that come out of the dumpster, it's basically the consistency of cat litter, except it's got an odor absorbing smell to it. We use that on all of our compactors specifically. So if there's any kind of odor, it's canceled out, and then we clean that we'll call it litter up.
Which is fine, but more importantly, which the engineer actually spoke
100%.
to it, having some sort of drain that connects possibly into sanitary, because that's great, but then you might have rain or something where all that gets washed in, and then it affects the stormwater management.
Yep,
So
agreed.
from that perspective, I'm glad you're, addressing the odor, potential odor, but what happens to the liquid garbage that, again, you just testified that
Right.
they pick it up weekly, right? So
Correct.
for 6 days or so, it just sits there. And in the summertime, I don't have to tell you how that can smell.
You don't have to tell me. I'm very familiar. Thank you. But no, I understand what you were saying to Mr. Jeffries, that, we do definitely need a plan
I just know
place.
there's other, again, not, you guys may or may not do it, but there's other instances where dumpster pads are frequently maintained, whether they're power washed or
Right.
they're cleaned possibly monthly, just because no matter how good and organized you are, you're dealing with garbage. So, right? You said the hours of operation, they don't come before 8 a.m. How late do you allow them to come?
Up until 7.
7 p.m. So
Right.
8 to 7.
8 to 7, correct.
Is there any way that you would be open to potentially shortening those hours to make it more of a business day?
Like 9 to 5?
Even 8?
I would go 8 to 5. I could be open to 8 to 5, but 7.
Well, here's the problem. The reason I do that is I run 85 buildings. So what happens is these trash companies, they run late. And I to tell you, if my compactor doesn't get picked up on that 6th day, it's really a problem for me. So if they have to come in a little bit later, I do allow them to do that because, again, from an operations standpoint, in a sanitary standpoint, I want to make sure that my trash gets picked up. And so there may be times I'll agree to the 5, but there may be emergencies where I may have to have them come in past that 5 o'clock, only because of them and their routes that I don't have control over.
Guys consider maybe in the summer months possibly picking it up twice a week instead of once a week? Again, there might be some cost prohibiting you from doing that. It goes by the ton, right? So
yeah.
you pick up a compactor and it's
well, and then they charge there's a tipping fee, and then they charge for the actual. There's all sorts of fees. But if I may, I'd like to come back to that in our next meeting, and I'd like to look at it. I don't see a reason why not, but I need to validate that, and I need to validate it with the owners.
You just maybe think of something as an example. Maybe relevant here, maybe not. In our town, our garbage is picked up 2 times a week in the summer and once in the winter.
Well, from Labor Day to, I guess.
But from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So
and then it goes to once a week in the after I guess Labor Day, right? Or maybe the second week of
something like that. But just so you understand where we're coming from.
I get it. I understand 100%. I do get it.
Can I just go back to the gate on Harridan?
Please.
It seems that it doesn't work properly. The light doesn't work on it. There's a shed there that's unmanned. So what is sort of the purpose of that gate aside from it being sort of a convenience?
It's an emergency entrance. It was when the building. My understanding is when the building was built, that entrance was put in because of the fire department. You had to have 2 entrances and exits into the property. So that's considered emergency exit entrance. Then you have this one on 17. So those are the 2.
Is there any way to ensure that the enforcement of that gate actually carries out the purpose it's supposed to?
Yes, there is.
Is there any reason why that hasn't been the case?
I can't give you a reason for that. I can tell you now, though, that I'm going to be involved in this and I will be addressing it. That's all I can tell you. I'm sorry. I don't know why they haven't done bring the gate down. I found out, it's chronic. And I was told that, unfortunately, every time that I was there, the gate was down. So
except for today.
Except for today. Well, I wasn't there today. I was told this by one of the gentlemen who were there today.
What currently, if someone wanted to enter through that gate, what is the protocol to go into that gate? How can someone enter through that? What do they need to show to get in?
So they actually have to have an access card. So that would be with the ambulance service, they would have an access card. Beyond that, we would have to physically let them in. We meaning the building. Someone from either maintenance or housekeeping would have to go out and physically open that gate.
And what is that shed for?
Well, apparently when the owner built it, he had a large security department and he had a security officer. Again, my understanding was that he had a security officer stationed in that particular building.
Okay. And when did that stop?
I can't tell you. It wasn't there when we started. No one was in there when we took over the building. So I can't say when it stopped.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the gate is in fact used every now and then.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because what I was thinking was, is there a way that we could put a chain, hear me out, a minute, a chain across there that would force everybody to go out to Route 17 to come around. Yet it's a pardon me for a moment. Michael, what do we have at the end of New Street? I know this was before you. What do we have? What do we have at the end of New Street? What do you guys? Because I was on here when we did that about the entrance into the Whitney.
Into the Whitney.
Okay.
So at going from New Street into the Whitney.
Yep.
On Whitney Lane, there is a double gate there
Okay.
that has a
Oh, yeah. It's a metal double gate with chains on it?
with a chain
Yep.
and a Knox lock on it.
Yep.
So only emergency services from the town would have access.
I don't have any objection as long as the town has no objection to me having a secured second entrance / exit. If you have no objection to it, I don't have an objection to it.
We may be overstepping here, so
Yeah, I'm putting it out there.
That's fair, and thank you
Yeah.
very much for that. Again, I was on the board when this occurred. I was on the planning board at the time when this whole thing was being considered at the end of New Street, and I know that this was a very big deal for the residents at the end of Newdale and all of that. I'm not sure, and I don't want to get myself or the board in trouble. All right, I got it.
No, I mean,
I don't know where this goes.
if,
I mean, maybe a conversation with
With
police
this public,
chief Dillon.
Right.
public safety.
Public safety.
and if
public
they're
safety.
amenable to it, it's a way to secure this
Yeah,
because
100%.
there's apparently an ongoing problem.
So just so you understand, I have two buildings right now that have similar lockups, and I've worked with the fire department in regards to them. Now, again, it's a very similar situation. We have one entrance all the way at the front of the building, and then I've got an entrance all the way at the back, and I've got double gates with exactly what you said, a Knox box, so they can control the lock. It's been that way since we took the building over 4 years ago. So I'm more than happy to do it here if that's something that is okay with the town, so that I can remove that entrance and make it just purely emergency. That's just, let me know and we'll do it.
You're on the public safety committee.
Correct. I could have a word with the public safety committee at our next meeting.
Yep.
Regarding it and go from there.
Okay.
You just ask for Mr. Cali to me, and we'll.
So all the ambulances come from the main Route 17 entrance.
There are ambulances that
But you
come
were
in.
saying that they have access.
They have access because they have access cards. They can come in through that back entrance.
Oh, okay.
They can.
They can or they
They can.
Okay.
Can, yes.
But your
They do,
understanding is
yes.
the original requirement was solely for fire apparatus access. Come in. for-
No, actually what,
Spot.
actually for him to put that security gate there, it had to have been approved by the town that someone was going to physically be in that at all times, I'm assuming. Again, I'm making a lot of assumptions. I don't
We should
know.
assume, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. I can't say. I'm sorry.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't want to push you in a position to say
Yeah, I don't want to say something that's incorrect.
that's fair. All right, and we're gonna things like that. Yep. Right. All right. Other board members of this witness. Again, just Mr. Kilcar, Mr. Kilcar, I'm sorry. The thing, you're hearing all of this, we're trying to balance.
Of course.
With the Harrington, the residents like Harrington, heard the residents with the parking, et cetera, or Ramsey residents, okay? So we appreciate, the openness and way that we're going back and forth with this. Okay.
Again, everything that we're discussing is fine. I don't have an issue with anything. For me, I'd like to get this through, and I want everybody to be happy. I want town to be happy, and I want the neighbors to be happy, and obviously I want our owners to be happy. So,
All right. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. All right, at this particular point, I'm going to open it up now to the public, as I said earlier of the other witness. The questions are for this witness only on the testimony that you just heard. There will be an opportunity to speak at the end of all of the testimony to comment on the application. But right now,
questions just of this witness, please. Okay? Yeah.
Mary Vandal, the note Vandal and the page. I said you're going to change the key. Like, tell us that for people.
What we're talking about here is actually creating two metal gates, taking those other away, closing them and locking them.
Right, but now it's still not. Tell you what, foot
I can only do it. I have to be honest. There's only so much that I can do. Yeah.
Of, delivery.
Delivery should. Well, wait. Well, no. Deliveries should not come through. And if it happens, as I just spoke to you, again, I'm more than happy to give you my number, and I'm more than happy to address it. You know, you can. Oh, yes, you can.
Monitoring. All the deep close sensors. You can go through it at a certain.
It's actually the sensors on the ground, actually.
That's why the person went through it, was there emergency?
Again, I can't speak to who went through the gate, but the gate was opened with an access card, so I'm assuming it was an ambulance.
Oh.
Right.
So, anybody?
No. No, absolutely not. No. They better not.
So the foot traffic that you're referring to.
Visitors,
Deliveries.
deliveries, workers, Uber, workers getting dropped off, workers walking from the train. There's
Could I repose my question that I asked?
Go on. To the witness?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Instead of putting a double gate, can you put a fence up with a gate? And that'll alleviate the issue there completely.
I think we would have to come up with some sort of a designer fence. I wouldn't want to I want something nice. Because again, it's right in front of our building, so it would be something I would speak with the owners about, but I don't see why not.
So you would be open to it?
I would be open to it, yes.
And then that would help prevent
Foot traffic.
foot traffic. Okay. The other thing that I was going to suggest is somehow in your employee personnel, whatever you have there, that if there's any deliveries, be it for Uber, sorry, thank you. Amazon, food, whatever comes through, that the employees are directed to tell them to come in for 17.
100%.
You know,
I think you still gotta put a gate to.
Oh, no,
To Andy's point.
Yeah.
Because no one can control Amazon.
This is true.
It could be a truck, it could be someone's personal car.
Correct.
Put an Amazon vest, you can't control it,
This is true.
and they'll come on a Sunday.
This is true. But we're, we're all trying to
I
get
think
to
the gate-
what we could do.
Yeah, I think
The gate or the fence.
aesthetically, I think the gate. But sort of aluminum gate that.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like a wrought iron gate, like
Yeah.
a metal wrought iron gate, double gate, closing.
All right.
Yep.
Yep.
And speak about where the trash is. Does that also include the dumpsters that are currently on the skilled nursing side by the kitchen?
That does not include the skilled nursing dumpsters. It does not. That they're still,
Those dumpsters going to be made,
those dumpsters remain. They do.
will there be better enclosure?
I think that was testified to by Mr. Jeffress about that there had some work being done there because of a stormwater pipe that runs through that area, but I didn't have.
They are currently.
I defer to him on, but I have no issue with putting them up, none whatsoever. But I'm going to defer to the engineer.
You say that the trash pickup is 8 to 7?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know that's being monitored, that it's 8 to 7?
Well, my staff tell me that if these guys come in early, I also have, if there's a complaint from a resident as well, they'll call the building and then they'll let me know. I call the owner of the company and say, look, knock it off. You can't do this. You can't come in until 8 o'clock. Yes, please.
So with what they're in.
No, unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
It's not, it's been, or
Unacceptable. I will be speaking with the owner of the company when I leave here tonight. So it's not acceptable. I'm sorry. I apologize for our company. I'm sorry, really.
Mr. Kopar's the same company that would be picking up from the new one.
Correct. Well, that's today. Yes.
It's the same as of today.
Yeah.
Theoretically, the company that's going to picks up currently.
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like I said, I've gone through 3 trash companies since we've been there for this exact reason. Correct. And then they go, well, you have 2 kinds of trucks because there's the compactor gets picked up by a different style truck. So it won't be the same truck that goes over. Okay.
As far as the employee parking,
Mhm.
currently the kitchen staff
Mhm.
parks along where the kitchen is, which is along where my property is aligned lot 24.
Can I have you show me? Can you show me? I'm sorry. Thank you. So they're parking here.
This lot, so this is me.
So
right
that's
here.
you right there.
Okay, so they're parking
Like along this roadway here?
not the roadway, so right here, there's
Right.
8
Yeah.
spaces.
Right. We have 2 electric stations and then right.
So I would say, so here's the creek starts along here.
Yep. Mhm.
So they're parking here and then they're parking here.
In non-parking spaces.
No,
In
they're,
parking
no,
spaces.
no, it is parking space.
In these 8 parking spaces.
Right here. Okay.
So that's currently the kitchen staff parking.
Ms. Lass, do you have a question for Mr. Kilgore regarding this?
So will you say there's gonna be certain employee parking? How is
Right.
that monitored? And is there currently,
So employee parking,
are the employees allowed to park there?
they are. Employees are allowed to park there. Currently, right now, there is no sticker system with a registration number. We are going to that. Once we do our new building, we will be going to a sticker system. So that's going to be our maintenance staff and it's going to be our housekeeping staff, both of those. Okay.
Right there, or like the road. As far as your staff, if they're currently designated. Staff.
Is there a designated smoking area? Yes, there is.
Where is that?
I was afraid you were gonna ask me where it is. I was afraid you were gonna ask me that. I'm good, but I don't know whether I'm that good.
You have the answer.
No, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Hang on a minute. Hold on a second. I got to be honest with you. I don't have an answer for you. I don't know. So there's obviously what's going on. Tell me what's going on. Yes, enlighten me. He can't.
Well, we have to get to a question pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Okay.
This is solely cross-examination at this point, Mr. Reyes.
How are we going to mitigate people that are currently smoking on that back parking area and littering all over that creek back there on my backyard?
Okay. I will be speaking with the administrator here at the building, and I'll actually come over and take a look at that as well because I'd like to see it as well. Okay. Are you okay? We'll talk after this.
And is there any possible way that potential landscaping drives or?
I'm going to defer that question to our engineer. So I'm sorry. I wish I could answer that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay.
Are you able to answer the question regarding why you guys aren't going to a second story, but you're expanding footprint?
So there's a couple of reasons for it. Well, first off, we like to try to keep the buildings on one level. We like to try to do that. But the other would require us to have to put an elevator in if we're adding a second story, which we try to avoid. We try to keep all of our buildings on one level if we can. Obviously, when we buy them, we buy what we have. But when we design them for any additions, typically we will design a ground level only. A lot of it in reference to neighbors, to be honest with you. So
Because I know, there's about half of the building that is 2 stories.
it is. I do. I know that. I'm sorry. I wish I had a better answer. That's my owner's answer. So
I mean, there's always an elevator, lots of things.
I mean, though, would it, I mean, I want to spend your money, that would be a better layout to get around some of this.
You're
we
you're
always
talking
have-
about re-engineering this entire
The
project.
board always asks, we always have a question that we ask.
Hmm?
One of us usually up here says, okay, you're hearing some of the questions, you're hearing some of where we're going with this. And we always say, okay, you presented us with this, and we don't like to have you come back 100 times and
Mhm.
ask and do the same thing. But have you looked at other alternatives?
That the other alternatives were looked at for a second story. Our owners said no. They were the ones who said they did not want a second story. They felt that this was again, typically they like to keep it on a 1 story. I wish I could say more than that.
Okay. Good. All right. I still have this open up to the public of this witness. Is there anybody else who would like to question this witness on anything you heard, questions, etc.? Okay, seeing that, I'm bringing it back to the board.
I think, of course, during the testimony, there was, I guess, when Ms. Potts asked the question about the dumpsters, I heard that there's other dumpsters on the property. Can you just enlighten me as to where they are? Because they're not listed as another trash area.
Right in this area.
So is it
There's two containers that are in there,
20 yarders, 30 yarders?
Eights.
8 to 8 yarders.
8 yards.
So it's not, I asked the question because it's not, 8 yarder is more for, like, not really a temporary dumpster, it's more of a permanent thing, right?
It is. One of those is also for cardboard, and also some of it is for skilled nursing as well. They're trash.
So, I mean, for the purposes of looking at the whole site, especially since you guys are expanding that lot, would it be able for you guys to, one, locate and 2, show some type of enclosure for it? Is it currently enclosed? Or?
It's not enclosed, no.
So,
No, but we can,
can we?
Mr. Jeffries can actually show an enclosure on there,
I mean,
absolutely.
only because looking at this for this whole time, I thought there was, we were talking about 1 dumpster trash enclosure, and now there's 2. So just so that full transparency.
Full transparency.
Yes, thank you.
Is there anyone from the public with a question based on the last 60 seconds of continued direct testimony, Mr. Kilcourse? Nothing more, because we had a little more directions now. Nobody from the public. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more. Any other questions from the board members before we? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Five-minute break.
Yeah, we can do. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, everybody. Thank you.
Really?
These are all.
Yeah.
So like, you have to actually there, they. What do they? Will separate that. In the enclosure, which if you're doing contractor weekly, what are they doing? Because you have to have. And that's big fault. But it becomes a little messy. But I don't know. So all the open. Yeah, yeah. But I was in a city plan, but somebody from Van Cleef was that action.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, I didn't. I know. The Somerset County. There was about probably 100, at least 100 feet. I went to the one because the speakers. Somerset's got, they got Somerset County. I think he said like 31 projects this year. It's $50 million for the next year. I mean, stuff like that. No, I this is like a routine. Give it to we could send it to, to anybody in Illinois. Hank Goldie's, their estimator was my professor at Stevens. Oh, yeah. So I always say that's right. So I guess my expectation I was good at Franklin. I got the first contract there. Because they want to do 8,800 feet of 10,000 feet of service. Like average service was 400 feet of a house like this. They want everything done in 90 days. You could barely lay the pipe. You'd have to go to the, and I'm like, why would you put those pictures on this? How for guarantee it? I bet you maybe you had to say. Just test pits. 220 test pits, they get 100.
Put that in, right? Squeeze that in.
We did 5,200 hours. Yeah, exactly. We did like, we were doing like probably only those 25 a day. We back them out. We actually, we take a picture with a whiteboard to show the customer side and the house side. And this way it's not. Oh, yeah, we did a lot. The main Ingenuity did that one. They did a nice job. They had a good young, like, project engineer. He was on this. Yeah. They didn't yield a lot, but probably when we got that contract, I thought that would be at least like 10%. Maybe like 1.5%. We just did 300 in Milford. They had a lot of people there. They're supposed to get another. The mayor works in for us to test it. Yeah. We're doing a raw water main water. Through like, we do it in Glenrock, like 7,000 feet of raw water main. So that one is 6 inch pipe. It's an all-in number. It's probably like $200.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all. We are going down Lincoln, which is a county road, it's 10 inches. The problem they're having there is a lot of, not unmarked utilities, unknown. We went down Bel Air, we were supposed to go down one side of the street, it was free and clear, open up the road, there was an abandoned gas main that nobody knew about. There's 4 other pipes that cross Bel Air. We just, and then right in front of one of the houses, we ran into an old abandoned box culvert that goes from curb to curb. Yes. Yeah, it's like on nobody's plan.
Yeah, well, all the cars. And I think she's elderly.
Another pad out.
1 year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before, better than killing the kids was actually almost the analog version or something. That's what I do. I doodle too. Just need the right stuff. It helps me think about it.
I heard. Oh yeah. Exactly where you're going. He had it. Oh, the old kinds of stuff. Yeah. These old houses. No, it's tough because you bid these jobs. You get the price, and then you run into the issue, and you try to explain. They don't want to hear it.
What you said.
I said, this is the price they gave us, so how come we can't do this? Because you had the gas line that no one knew they had it. They had a over that doesn't go anywhere. You have to go around it. That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah. Who's that? The power. My family. Someone to ask. Yeah.
I've heard about it. All right, we're gonna bring it back. All right. Yeah. All right, we're gonna bring it back. I would.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here, you want the blown up one?
You know.
Yep.
This is a loading dock, so is it probably, is it right here?
No,
No, it's in the loading dock.
Existing.
Actually, no, I didn't see Paul Gordon. You want to call him next?
You go.
I think they were in the plane. Someone wasn't.
We often have. I think the amount of people we have for all.
Oh, yeah.
If we can cover your.
Yeah, but it shows that as a loading company. Back with Paul, Scott, and their audience.
All right, so we're ready.
At least.
But the, wait, where are the other ones?
I mean, some of the other ones.
These are all, this is a compact case.
Did you do any work? Redevelopment.
No, I did not. Go and.
Yeah. The neighbors.
Yeah.
Of course. We should change the sign.
And it was like.
Someday they technically.
There's an industrial. That's on a dead end tree, barren, landfill, a lot of apartments. Designated. Zoning. Maybe allow. Polar.
Now you're.
That's fair. And I think it was something where they allow storing as but we always had.
Board members are having a right for her. I'm anyway. It's driving there.
Okay, so.
It wasn't as crazy change. You would have thought that what being allowed now was never contemplated there.
No, we're talking about planning presentation.
Yeah. About all the affordable housing. And I'm gonna hear.
Yeah, affordable housing. It's just so big down to kind of like believe all the foliage is up here, but you can see right there.
I should do that, but then the question is, you go until now, then you're gonna have to. I'm not there. All right, so we're gonna bring everybody back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll announce it, they'll put the notice, and they're all set.
Yeah. All right, everybody.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
It only has, right? Unbelievable what you can do. Okay, everybody. I know we took a little bit more than 5 minutes, so thank you for bearing with us. Council, I'm gonna turn it to you for a moment. Okay?
Thank you.
Please, thank you.
The reason I asked for the time was I wanted to see whether it was feasible to move dumpster, or at least conceptually feasible to move the dumpster, so that it made sense to either adjourn or continue to the end, because we can't. It appears that we may be able to do that. Obviously, there's some work that needs to be done and make sure it works logistically, both in terms of its proximity to the building, as well as the accessibility for trash trucks to get to it and get in and get out. And that's something that Tom Kilcourse, who you just heard from, and Teal Jeffers will have to work together on. Given that fact, that affects our traffic testimony. If we move dumpster, it affects circulation through the site and therefore the traffic testimony. So rather than have Mr. Cannell testify twice, which would be redundant and a waste of time, it seems to me, I would rather adjourn now, see what we can do with the dumpster, have him adjust his testimony accordingly if necessary, and then come back with Mr. Jeffers, Mr. Cannell, and then our planner, Paul Greigel. On December 18th, we have a conflict in November, so the next available day for all of our people is December 18th.
December 8th. Yep, December 18th.
That's a Wednesday.
December
What all
18th.
extensions
We
required.
grant
through the end
all
of the year.
extensions and ask that no further notice be required.
Okay.
Very good, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure the public understands that the next time this will be heard will be Wednesday, December 18th. Okay? All right, and Linda
And
will
there'll be
have-
no further notice. They got notice for this
Yes.
meeting, but there'll be no further notice.
All right, so just to be clear,
At 7:30.
7:30, yes, sir. Okay, just to be clear. So, that's about all we can do at this particular point in time. Okay,
Thank you all.
all right.
And again, I thank you for the special meeting.
No,
Really
thank-
appreciate it.
Thank you for bringing everybody here. Okay, so that concludes this part of the agenda for tonight. For this part,
We need to take a vote.
yes, oh, well, no, we're not totally done yet. What we will. No, for this,
Yes, for
Okay.
this.
Okay. All right, motion to carry,
I'll make a motion.
thank you. Sorry, thank you. Can we do voice votes? Or do, okay, we'll just, Linda, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you for keeping me on.
Thank you all.
All right,
So for our neighbors, you will not receive any further notice. December 18th, same time and location. If you'd like to be back that evening to ask questions, make comments.
We're good on the timing, right? Of, time that trains. I said.
Be granted an extension.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh.
thank you.
Something,
The old,
so thank you. Oh, yeah, you
You have to get a hold of me, because they're really starting to get geared up in the process.
What happened?
Yeah.
You didn't say one wrong thing.
They had the location marked out, that's pretty much where they want to go. And we have, they have, I think they have meets and bounds, they probably have a draft. Probably get
There you go.
everything.
All right. Thank you again.
Ask each other questions.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Next on our agenda is any public comments. Open it to the public.
There is no comment.
Not seeing anybody, bringing it back to the board. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, but wait. Is there anything? Andy, is there anything that means that there's nothing?
Yep. Mr. Chairman, make this all
I don't want, I'm done. We're done.
It's over.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
sir,
Mr. Chairman,
sir.
I apologize.
Oh, yes.
Excuse me,
Oh,
I'll make
no,
it
I
very quick.
apologize. I'm sorry.
I had handed out a memo previously about the land use plan. We'll be discussing it at the next meeting.
That is on the
People to
agenda for
understand.
next month. Okay,
If
and
there's
we
any
made sure when we
questions
were
or
talking
comments,
about,
please come.
and we made sure when we were talking about this that you're on there. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Thank you very much, everybody, for a special meeting. You guys go home and watch football?
Oh, no, it's-